Hello, genealogists. This is Craig, and this is Just Genealogy. I thought I'd do something a little bit different today. I'm always doing something a little bit different, aren't I? So I'm going to talk about a Revolutionary War soldier. I'm not going to research him fully, but I'm going to leave you with a question at the very end, and I want to see what you can do to answer that question. Actually, I'll make it 2 questions. And your being able to help me will provide you the opportunity to get a book at a discount, of course, because that's how I roll. And besides, unless, wait, let me say that. Unless you would like, if you provide the information, a free book called Salute to Adventurers by John Buchanan. Because I have 1,000 of these and nobody buys them. But anyway. So what I want to talk to you about is a soldier by the name of Daniel Waldo. And let me share my screen because there's lots of words. So the reason I thought about Daniel today is I was talking to the winner of the last genealogy skills test. And she was talking about that there were 2 sugar house prisons. And I was thinking that I only knew about one. The one that Daniel Waldo was in. So let's talk about Daniel Waldo. There's a guy by the name of the Reverend Elias Brewster Hilliard who went around the country photographing pictures of Revolutionary War soldiers in the 1860s. Now, by the 1860s, there were not many Revolutionary War soldiers left. And he put these photographs together into books called The Last Men of the Revolution. And I held one of these in my hand once. And it was $300, and I just could not see purchasing it. And just because I wanted it so bad. And I decided not to purchase it. And it just, as an afterthought, it just really irritated me that I was so cheap that I was unwilling to do without lunch for 30 days so I could have this book. But that said, Hilliard arrived at Daniel Waldo's house after his death, but included him in the biography of him in The Last Men of the Revolution. He was born in Windham, Connecticut. He was drafted as a soldier at 16 for 1 month of service and later enlisted for an additional term. According to his pension application, he was taken prisoner in December 1779 and released in February 1780 from the famous Sugar House. And what I had never noticed before in all the years that I've known Daniel Waldo, prisons. I always thought it was just a prison, but evidently there were 2 in New York. I think one in Manhattan, one in the Bronx. Known for their cruel treatment of inmates. Well, it didn't matter where you were. If you were a prisoner of war, you were treated cruelly. After the war, he became a congregational minister. He married, had several children, and there are several different CDVs of Waldo from the 1860s. So a CDV is a carte de vista, a type of photograph made popular from the mid-1850s in Europe and from 1860 on in America. It's usually an albumin print measuring a little bit more than 2 to 3.5 inches, mounted on a card size 2.5 by 4 inches. So let's talk about that a little bit. Talk about Waldo and then talk about his photographs. What I know about him based on his compiled military service record is that he was a private in Captain Nathaniel Wales' company of Levi Wells Regiment in Connecticut. I'm familiar with Levi Wells Regiment because of some research about a man by the name of John Dye. There was one from Connecticut and one from Rhode Island, and a fellow genealogist descends from the one from Connecticut who complains that everybody joined the DAR under him, but actually they descended from the John Dye of Rhode Island. One day I'll work on that one. And he's on a list of prisoners taken on the morning of December 10th, 1780. And on December 9th at Horseneck, Connecticut, a detachment of British cavalry surprised Levi Wells' militia guard and captured most of them. 3 were wounded, 26 were captured. And that little vignette is taken from a book I've been working on for 30 years called The Revolutionary War Day by Day. One day I'll get it done. And then on December 11th, the night before the last detachment of Colonel James Delancey's refugees. Now, James Delancey is a famous New York loyalist, under the command of Major Hungerford, penetrated Connecticut as far as North Street, and on the morning of the 10th, before the day before, made a successful attack on the rebels posted there. And it goes on to talk about the situation of the enemy. The loss of the rebels was 15 killed, 25 prisoners, among whom were Colonel Wells, 1 brigade major, 1 captain, 2 lieutenants, and 2 ensigns. And that Colonel Wells expressed his astonishment at the bravery of the conquerors. Evidently, 1 Lieutenant James Kipp, who commanded the attack against him, to whom he surrendered, impressed him. And these has come from the Gaines Mercury of December 18th, the newspaper of the time. So that brings you up to snuff about Daniel Waldo's service. Here's a picture of Daniel. And we don't normally get to see pictures of Revolutionary War soldiers except in Maureen Taylor's 2 books, The Last Muster. And this is from one of the Hilliard books. And he lived from September 10th, 1762 to July 30th, 1864. Now, David Lambert from the New England Historic Genealogical Society gave me a scan of Waldo from his collection. He actually has the photograph of Daniel Waldo, and he gave me a scan, and it's on the front cover of my Understanding Revolutionary War and Invalid Pension Ledgers, 1818 to 1872, which if you go and read the review on Amazon, it looks pretty good. Anyway, I enjoy this book. It's one of the favorite books that I've ever done. But here's another picture of Daniel Waldo, done in the 1860s. I think this one was taken actually just a couple of weeks before he died. He does have a pension, and we see here that as part of his pension, he also got 160 acres of bounty land, and that he served from Connecticut. He has something under the Act of 6 April 1832, which means he touches my lost pension book, because that's the finding aid to those. And basically, here's his pension, where he talks about things. Now, we can also end it there. And that's where we're going to end it today. So here's the question I want to ask you about Daniel Waldo, because this is a question that a lot of people don't answer. Most people just stop right here at the pension. They'll get the compiled military service record, they will get the pension, and they will stop. So these are my 2 questions for you. Can you find another CDV or another photo of Daniel Waldo other than the 2 that I have showed you? Because there is several, according to the information that I've come across. And I have not hunted for any others. And then the second question is, Daniel Waldo was in Connecticut. I would like you to trace the life of Daniel Waldo in regards to what states or what places he lived in. And I'd like you to figure out how you can trace, without using census records, an individual. And by the way, I've shared with you before how to do that. I'm just trying to get to see if you remember. I would like you to tell me where Daniel Waldo is in various periods of time. I will share with you that you should be able to find him in Connecticut, in one other place, and then in another place, and then back in that second place. So you should be able to come up with 4 places, and I'll give you the first one. It's Connecticut. So this is only at the state level, is where we want to find him. So let's, if you can find the first person to find him in 4 jurisdictions, 4 state level jurisdictions, and the years that he was there, that's all I really care about, the years. Or you could do it in half years if you wanted to be really special and let me know that you actually knew what the answer was. And tell me how you found it. Then I will, of course, offer you my usual 40% discount on any book that is published by Heritage Books. And I'll even go so far as to offer you 20% on any book that Heritage Books does not publish that you might want, if you're the first one. If you're the second or third one, then you will get a 20% on any book you want. This is just how we roll. I can't help myself. Thank you, Catherine, for reminding me about the sugar prisons. I need to now research sugar prisons to find out where they both were, how they both were, and how we may differentiate between who was in which one. And I'm thinking they may have different time periods, so maybe it's possible to differentiate them by time period. But it seems to me, in looking at the pensions that where I've seen the sugar prison or sugar prisons mentioned before, they don't differentiate between the two of them, as if they were part of the same operation, just not the same complex. I will tell you that the records that you need to examine came from the National Archives, or are in the National Archives. And I will tell you that the records that you need to solve this problem as to where Waldo was from the end of, in his travels, let's say from in the 1800s. You don't have to find him right after the Revolution. The first time that you can find him, that these records are available digitally as part of the National Archives Partner Program. So this is Craig. This has been Just Genealogy. And someday I will share with you what the answers to these questions are. And if anybody can find more pictures of Waldo, that would just make my entire day, because I like collecting pictures of Daniel Waldo. As you can see, I already have 2 of them. Thank you so much. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to tell your friends. We're almost to 500 people. And I will leave you with that.